Hello everyone, it's Noel from Noel's Nook, and I'm back again with another upcycled DIY. Now here in front of me you can see that I have several different art pieces, and they're kind of abstract looking, but they were made completely with melted crayon wax. So this was the first one I made, and I will show you guys how I did it in a minute. It was kind of just an experiment overall. This was supposed to be a sky. This one I think turned out really cool. This is based on a sunset, and it looks pretty neat. It actually looks a lot better than I thought it would. It's a little lumpy down here because of the blue that I used, but I still think it looks really neat. And then last I have this tree here that I also made that I think looks really neat. And I will go ahead and give you guys some directions and tips on how to do this in just a second. The materials you are going to need for this DIY include a pan, and if you are using a regular pan instead of disposable aluminum foil pan, you're going to need aluminum foil to cover it with. I recommend a paper that is heavier, like cardstock. You'll need plasticware so you can manipulate the wax as it is melting, or to create really cool textures once the wax is done drying. Now this is up to you, but you're going to need something to scrape the wax from the crayons. Now I used a knife in this tutorial. You could alternatively use a pair of scissors you are not going to miss, or better yet, use a crayon sharpener and then open it up and use the shavings. Lastly, you're going to need some crayons. I recommend crayons that don't have too much life left in them, crayons that you may have left out in the sun, and you will need to take the paper off of them. The last thing you're going to need is a source of heat. Now I recommend using the stovetop oven method, which is what I did, because you can not only see what is going on, but you can control the heat better that way instead of, say, putting it in the oven or using a hair dryer, which would probably cause the wax to scatter all over the place. Now this is a huge warning. We are going to be using hot surfaces and potentially sharp objects if you are not using the crayon sharpener. So please, please, please have supervision while doing this project and be very, very careful. Now for some reason I didn't think ahead, and I actually did a lot of my wax shaving on a clipboard. I would recommend placing your piece of work inside your pan first to reduce as much messiness as possible, and that way you can just transfer it right to the oven instead of trying to juggle and try to keep the shavings on the paper. Now you might notice that I also put glue down. I would not recommend doing that. Now I recommend using a light hand with the wax because, like you saw with my blue sky, if you put too much wax down, it tends to get pretty heavy and it starts to warp the paper. So I would say start light, because what's going to end up happening is whenever the crayon wax melts, you are able to then kind of manipulate it with a spoon and basically paint wherever there are sparse areas. And if you have the wax next to you by the stove, you can always just put some more wax on top and see what kind of effects you get from there. I did have my stovetop set to low, but you could also set it to high and then turn down the heat as soon as you transfer your pan onto the stovetop. After you're happy with your piece, you can then take it off of the oven. Make sure you turn off the oven as well, and then allow it to cool. Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's DIY. If you do end up making something, I would love to see it. Go ahead and tag me on Instagram or Twitter or whatever social media that you and I happen to be on together, and I would love to see what you made. And as always, draw what you love what you draw. Take care, guys.